Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at what I believe to be the best custom classes here in Call of Duty Black Ops 4. This video has been highly requested since the launch of the game, but I wanted to wait until Treyarch made some changes, right? Because it was clear when Black Ops 4 first came out that weapon balance was a bit out of whack. The assault rifles were incredibly overpowered, the submachine guns were dreadfully weak, the sniper rifles were all over the place, and the light machine guns were a bit too strong. Basically, I wanted to wait for the metagame to evolve, and I also wanted to wait for those initial balancing changes to actually take effect. I also wanted some time to get familiar with the game as well, right? Because there's nothing worse than those guides that people rush out on day 1 at level 23 trying to convince you of the best guns in the game and the best class setups in the game. As of right now, I am partway through my 8th Prestige. I have nearly 1,000 games played. I have over 21,000 EKIAs, which translates to about 13 or 14,000 actual kills. My KD is about 2.5. I win about 80% of my matches, and I play solo the majority of the time as well, so I feel as though at this point I am very familiar with the Black Ops 4 multiplayer and the guns in it, which is why I wanted to make this guide for you guys here today. Throughout this video, I'm going to be covering 10 of my favorite classes here in Black Ops 4, as well as covering some general tips and tricks when it comes to perks, specialists, and playing in certain game modes, and things like that. So with the introduction out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump right into the Create Class Guide. First up, we have one of the strongest and most underrated weapons here in Black Ops 4, the Swordfish. If you guys recall correctly, when the game first came out, lots of YouTubers and pro players were saying how good the Swordfish was, but pretty much all of those YouTubers and pro players forgot about the gun once they realized that the ICR was better, and the VAPR was better, and the Maddox was better. In fact, lots of guns were actually better, which is why, again, those first impression videos typically aren't very helpful when you're talking about custom class guides here in Black Ops 4. Because of everybody forgetting about the Swordfish, Treyarch decided to buff it twice since the launch of the game, and those buffs have made this weapon an absolute monster. So if you're a fan of burst fire guns like the M8A1 back in Black Ops 2 or the M8A7 back in Black Ops 3, you are really going to like the Swordfish here in Black Ops 4 because it has no recoil, it has no idle sway, it comes with a 36 round magazine by default, and unlike the ABR, which is the only other burst fire rifle here in Black Ops 4, the Swordfish actually has a good fire rate and some good stopping power down range. The class I'm going to recommend to you guys is going to be this one, which is designed for heavy objective play in modes like Domination and Hardpoint, especially on fast-paced maps like Firing Range and Nuketown. But keep in mind, this class is good in pretty much every game mode on every single map. The attachments are going to be Reflex Sight for increased precision, High Caliber because it's one of the best attachments in the game, so make sure you use it pretty much all the time if your weapon actually can use it. And finally, we have Quick Draw because it's very useful in those close quarters fights. The secondary on this class is going to be the Hellion Rocket Launcher, which goes criminally underused here in Black Ops 4. Most of the things that people find annoying about this game, ironically, can be countered by the rocket launcher. Not only can you shoot down streaks, which is very helpful for you and your team, but the rocket launcher is also good at taking out Torque Razor Wire in only 1 hit. It takes down a Torque Barricade in only 2 hits. You can even kill Ajax right through his shield when using the rocket launcher. It's by far the most useful secondary here in Black Ops 4, which is why I decided to feature it here on this class. We're also going to be making use of Flak Jacket and Tactical Mask because both of these perks are really good at countering specialists here in Black Ops 4. Flak Jacket will protect you from pretty much everything that Battery can throw at you, while also protecting you from weaker score streaks like the Dart and the RCXD, and Tactical Mask, after its buffs, is actually very good at countering Fire Break and Ajax. Basically, these are 2 tried and true perks for objective play here in the Call of Duty franchise, and they are incredibly good here in Black Ops 4 as well. Last but not least, we have Stim Shot and Lightweight, because again, this class is not designed for you to sit back and pick people off like you're using a COD 4 M16. This class is all about getting you up close and personal on the objective with one of the most deadly accurate weapons in the game. Stim Shot not only allows you to heal while firing, but it also heals you faster and more frequently, and Lightweight allows you to move faster and take no fall damage, which is incredibly good for getting you to the objective, and it's also one of those perks where once you use it for a while, you'll really miss it when you stop using it. You feel like you're running in mud, basically. Lightweight is one of my favorite perks to use here in Black Ops 4, and this is one of my favorite classes to use here in Black Ops 4, which is why I wanted to feature it first here in this video. Next up, we have the MX-9 Stealth class. This setup is great for pretty much every mode and every map, but it's especially good in game modes like Team Deathmatch, Free-for-All, and Search and Destroy. The idea for this class is simple enough. Make it harder for your opponents to detect you, while also making it easier for you to detect your opponents, which would give you an advantage in pretty much every gunfight. I chose the MX-9 because, in my opinion, it's a super consistent and underrated weapon that's good at pretty much everything, right? It may not excel up close like the Spitfire, but also doesn't struggle at range like the Spitfire does. It may be harder to use downrange than the GKS, but it's also better up close than the GKS, right? The MX-9 in this game, in my opinion, is basically like the MP5 of Black Ops 4. It's good at pretty much everything, while also not being overpowered at anything either. It's just a solid all-around submachine gun. For attachments, I decided to go with the Elo sight, high caliber, and of course a suppressor. As a general tip, if you can get away with not using an optical attachment, that's usually for the best, because it saves you a point in your create class, which you can use to get you something else. But in my opinion, the MX-9's iron sights are a bit too intrusive when I tried to use this gun downrange, which is why I decided to go with the Elo sight. The suppressor is an obvious choice as it keeps us off the minimap when we fire our weapon, and high caliber is great because it will greatly speed up the time to kill if you can actually hit your opponent in the head. Just as another general tip going forward, guys, if high caliber is available on a gun, you should probably use it here in Black Ops 4 because it's insanely good and makes all of your weapons that much better. Going back to the class here, we're going to be making use of the acoustic sensor, which is one of the most underrated pieces of gear in this game. The acoustic sensor not only highlights your minimap when enemies are near you, but it also increases the sound of enemy footsteps, sort of similar to the SitRep Pro perk back from Modern Warfare 2 or the awareness perks from the previous Treyarch games. This is insanely good on every map and in every game mode, even in hardcore. I've actually had some people try to tell me that acoustic sensor is useless in hardcore because you don't have a minimap by default, but we're not really using the acoustic sensor for the minimap advantage. We're using it because we want to hear our enemies' every footstep and their every move. Now, going back to the perks here, we have Engineer, which is honestly one of the best perks in the entire game. I could probably spend 7 or 8 minutes talking about how good Engineer is, but allow me to summarize it with this. While using Engineer, you can see things like Torque's razor wire, you can see his barricades, you can see Nomad's mines and his dog, you can see enemy kill streaks, you can see where Sarah places down her tac deploy. Basically, Engineer gives you access to an absurd amount of information that will allow you to make better decisions in your day-to-day gameplay. Lightweight is here because moving faster and taking no fall damage is obviously good on a mobile class like this one, and of course we also have Ghost and Dead Silence, both of which are required to make a class like this one actually work. All in all, this stealth class is insanely powerful in pretty much every situation, and I highly recommend giving it a chance if you guys haven't already. Next up, we have everybody's favorite assault rifle, the ICR. This gun was the bane of my existence when this game first came out. Thankfully, it has been nerfed a couple of times, but it's still very good here in Black Ops 4. The reason why this weapon is so popular is because it has virtually no recoil, no idle sway, no penalty whatsoever for holding down the trigger and just trying to snipe people from across the map. This gun is obviously going to get a lot of comparisons to the Black Ops 3 ICR because it has the same name, but I would say this gun is actually much closer to the ACR from Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 with how effective it can actually be. The build for this class is pretty simple. Sit back and pick people off at a distance where the ICR shines, where you have really no penalty for going full auto, whereas they typically have to burst fire. To accomplish this, we're going to be using Reflex Sight, Quick Draw, Grip 1, as well as Grip 2. If you guys don't know, Grip 2 takes an already very good ICR and makes it insanely good by reducing recoil to virtually nothing and also making it so when people shoot back at you, you flinch less. How many of you remember how good Toughness was back in Call of Duty Black Ops 2? That was essentially a crutch perk that you had to run on every class in that game. Well, Grip 2 here in Black Ops 4 is basically Toughness as an attachment, which is obviously pretty good. Now, with a class like this one, where you're sitting back and picking people off, you would think that we would be running ComSec device to get our score streaks faster, but instead, I'm going to recommend you use Equipment Charge. These specialists here in Black Ops 4 are what the game was designed around, and they're all very powerful in their own right, and being able to have access to Torque's Barricade, or Nomad's Mines, or Crash's TAC 5, or Recon's Vision Pulse more often than normal is obviously going to be very beneficial. With a gun like the ICR, you're bound to get your streaks, right? ComSec device is very good, but this class is more designed around holding down key choke points on the map, and having access to more specialist gear and more specialist weapons more frequently is going to be key in you being able to do that. Finally, when it comes to perks, we have Scavenger, Lightweight, and Dead Silence. Scavenger is here instead of Engineer because when it comes to the ICR, you only only get 3 full magazines by default, and it's incredibly easy to burn through all of that ammo because there's virtually no range in this game where it's not worth taking some shots at somebody while using the ICR, and as a result of that, you're going to be burning through your ammo pretty quickly. Lightweight is there because moving faster is incredible, and dead silence is there because I find that oftentimes it's more useful than Ghost, which I think is going to be controversial, but allow me to explain myself. I feel like by default, lots of people just throw on Ghost and feel as though they are safe, which is only partially true. While yes, Ghost can hide you from UAVs while you're moving, it doesn't always work perfectly, and anybody with a headset can hear you running around. UAVs are only in the air some of the time, but people's ears are listening all the time. This has been true dating back all the way to the Call of Duty 4 days, which is why, if you're wondering how people always seem to know where you are, it's because they can probably hear you coming, right? Even if you're somebody who doesn't use a headset, maybe you listen through your TV where you can't really tell what's happening around you, you should still consider using dead silence because people are going to be listening for you, even if you're not listening back for them. Another reason why I like dead silence so much is because it makes your footsteps quieter for you as well as your opponents, which means you don't hear your own footsteps nearly as much, which makes it easier to hear your opponents as well. It all just ties together here, and that's why I feel as though dead silence in most cases is actually better than Ghost, which makes it a criminally underused perk here in Black Ops 4, and that's also why you'll find it on most of my classes here in this video. Next up, we have the Cordite class. I absolutely adore this gun, and a big part of why I like it so much is because of the belt feed operator mod. If you guys haven't unlocked it yet, this operator mod allows the Cordite to basically never have to reload. You get a 600 round magazine by default, but instead of reloading, your operator mod can overheat. It looks like you'll be able to fire about 65 or 70 rounds before you have to stop completely with your thing overheating, and that rarely happens in an actual online match. How many times with a submachine gun in a real online multiplayer match are you going to fire nearly 70 rounds without reloading altogether, right? That's not going to happen. So therefore, this gun basically never needs to reload. It's always fire ready, and it's surprisingly strong in close to medium range gunfights. For me, the Cordite iron sights are just fine, so I won't be recommending an optical attachment here, and instead I'm going to recommend you guys use a grip as well as a laser sight. Grip is there to help manage that recoil at those longer ranges, and laser sight is there to make your spray and pray hip fire even more accurate up close. Our secondary of choice, once again, is going to be the Hellion rocket launcher. If we're rushing around with this submachine gun, we are going to find many more situations to use our rocket launcher to take out enemy equipment. As for gear and perks, of course, I recommend Stim Shot on a heavy rushing class like this one. I recommend Engineer because it's so freaking good at giving you valuable information while rushing, as well as letting you know what to blow up with your rocket launcher. And finally, we have Lightweight, because Lightweight is really good on pretty much every class, especially rushing ones, right? Basically, this is my go-to class when I'm looking to rush and push the objectives really hard, and I'm not too worried about my opponents knowing where I'm coming from. A good example of this would be game modes like Hardpoint or Domination, where you're losing and you really have to push the objective really hard. This class excels in situations like that, whereas the MX-9 Stealth class, that's really more for game modes like Team Deathmatch and Free-for-All and Search and Destroy. It can also work well in objective modes, but that's really more for when you're already winning and you're just flanking the opposing team over and over, getting kills from behind. This class here, the Cordite class, is your up-close and personal SMG class, and honestly, it's very fun to use, especially with that operator mod. But until you get the operator mod, I recommend just using the extended mag and then maybe choosing another perk, but definitely use the belt feed once you actually have it unlocked. Next up, we have one of the best kept secrets here in Black Ops 4, the double high caliber auger. Semi-automatic weapons like this one have always gone underused and underappreciated here in the Call of Duty franchise because they are inherently much harder to use than the full auto weapons, right? And while that's still true with the auger, if you can train yourself to be fast and accurate with this gun, you're going to find yourself easily outgunning people at any and all ranges. In fact, I would say a double high cal auger is one of, if not the best gun to use at long ranges. It's really freaking hard to beat, barring maybe like a sniper rifle or something like that. High caliber and high caliber 2 will increase your damage to your opponent's head and your opponent's chest, and I would say the results that you're seeing here in the gameplay speak for themselves. This gun doesn't kick a whole lot, it handles pretty well, and if you're accurate and able to shoot quickly, you're going to find that the auger is actually very lethal at pretty much all ranges here in Black Ops 4. My recommended attachments would be a reflex sight, then obviously high caliber 1 and high caliber 2, Our secondary for this class is going to be the Hellion yet again, because there really isn't a situation where you need to swap weapons while using your Auger, and because we have an extra point with this class, we are going to spend it on the Fast Loader attachment. There are lots of attachments you could use for the Hellion rocket launcher, but I recommend Fast Loader because it allows you to reload faster, which helps you out in more situations than the other attachments, at least in my opinion. So picture a situation where there's a torque barricade in front of you. You don't need to lock onto it. You don't need to have it do more damage or anything like that. You simply need to put 2 rockets into it to blow it up, and Fast Loader helps you do that by reloading your rockets even faster than normal. It also helps you in shooting down enemy air support as well, which is obviously pretty good. Our gear for this class is going to be the ComSec device because of the kind of weapon that we're using. When you have the Auger equipped, chances are you're not going to be rushing around like you would with the Cordite. Even though the gun is good up close, there's still a lot more room for error with the Auger as compared to something like the double-gripped ICR, for example. That's why, more often than not, when you use this gun, you are going to be sitting back, and with how lethal this gun is downrange, you're going to be finding yourself going on some higher streaks, and that's where the ComSec device comes in. The ComSec device will lower the cost of most streaks in this game by 200 or 300 score, which is obviously pretty good, right? I'll be talking about Scorestreaks in detail later on in the video, but suffice it to say, the ComSec device is very good and oftentimes gets overlooked because of things like Stim Shot. Our perks for this class are going to be pretty bare bones. We have Engineer, Lightweight, and Dead Silence, and because I've already covered why all those perks are very good in this video, I'm not going to recover them here for the Auger class. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at one of the most broken classes here in Black Ops 4, which is why you see so many freaking people using it. The Titan LMG needs no real introduction. It's insanely good on pretty much every map, in every game mode, at every range, and it's infuriating to die to, which is why I had to feature it here in this video. I know there are going to be plenty of people saying that I should not recommend a Titan class here in this video, but I can't in good conscience call it the best classes in Black Ops 4 and pretty much ignore the fact that the Titan exists, right? That'd be like making a World at War class guide and not talking about the M1A1 or the MP40. That would be like making a Black Ops 2 guide and not talking about the MSMC. That'd be like making a COD 4 guide and not talking about the M16. Even though the gun's overpowered and it's super annoying to die to, I have to discuss it here in this video, though I will say that I hope that Treyarch continues to monitor this weapon's performance and make changes to it when they need to, because it's still really freaking good despite all the nerfs that they've already given it. So for attachments, I'm going to recommend pretty much any optical sight of your choice. I've tried them all. Reflex sight's fantastic. Recon sight is fantastic. The thermal sight on the default class is fantastic. You pretty much can't go wrong with the Titan, though I would like to say you should focus on also putting on FMJ and FMJ2. Just like in previous Call of Duty games, FMJ allows you to shred people through walls and cover, and FMJ2 makes it so you can shoot down enemy score streaks insanely easily. When I say insanely easily, I mean really freaking easily. Like, it takes maybe 5 bullets from a double FMJ Titan to take a UAV out of the sky. It's also pretty good at taking out bigger streaks, like attack helicopters as well. Just like with the Auger, you're going to be running the ComSec device on this class because we're going to be getting lots of streaks while using this gun, and when it comes to perks, I recommend rocking the standard Engineer, Lightweight, Dead Silence, as well as perk 2 Greed to also give us Gung Ho. Gung Ho allows us to recover from sprinting faster, it allows us to fire while sprinting and reload while sprinting, and the reason why we're using this on the Titan as compared to other guns is because the Titan, at the end of the day, is a light machine gun, and therefore it's inherently slower and has slower handling characteristics than assault rifles and submachine guns. Using both Lightweight and Gung Ho will alleviate most of these disadvantages, which further makes the Titan one of, if not the, best gun here in Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Now, speaking of really annoying guns and really annoying classes, we might as well move over from the Titan to the Strobe Light SG-12. I know the community hates dying to semi-automatic shotguns, and in fact, the SG-12 is one of the most hated guns here in Black Ops 4, but just like with the Titan, I can't in good conscience pretend that this setup does not exist for the purpose of this video. So the most important part of this class, of course, would be the Strobe Light Operator mod. This mod is going to cost you a total of 3 points to equip, which is going to severely limit our other options with the class, but it's definitely worth it, at least in my opinion, because the Strobe Light blinds your opponent and also messes up their aim assist, which typically gives you the advantage in close range gunfights. The other attachments I would recommend would be Laser Sight for more accurate hip fire, because you always have to hip fire while using the Strobe Light Operator mod, and the other attachment I would recommend would be Max Load, though you can pretty much choose whatever other attachments you would like. You could go Extended Mag, you could go Laser Sight 2, you could go Max Load, pick your poison pretty much, they're all good for the SG-12. At first, I started using max load because of the challenges that were associated with it, but after a while I started to prefer it because it gave me a lot more 2-shot kills and a lot less 3-shot kills. For gear, I recommend using the stim shot because of course we're using a shotgun here, therefore we're always going to be right next to the enemy, and having more frequent healing, faster healing, and being able to heal while using your shotgun is very beneficial. Unfortunately, because of the operator mod taking up so many points in our class, we don't really have a whole lot of room left to get creative with our perks, but the perks I've chosen here are all very good at making the SG-12 even better. Gung-Ho is a near requirement for shotguns here in this game. Being able to sprint and shoot and have faster sprint recovery speed is essential for proper shotgun play. Dead Silence is great for all the reasons I've already covered here in this video, and Scavenger is great on the SG-12 because you tend to burn through ammo with this gun if you're alive for any amount of time. Now, if you absolutely hate the idea of using the SG-12, which lots of you probably do, then I'm going to recommend this MOG-12 class for you guys, but I really do recommend the SG-12 instead, as much as it pains me to say. If you guys don't know me as a Call of Duty player, I love shotguns. I've always loved shotguns. I was using the terrible trench gun back in 2008 and trying to make that gun good. I've always liked shotguns here in the Call of Duty franchise, but the MOG-12 is not very good here in Black Ops 4. The reason why I say that the SG-12 is better is because it pretty much does everything the MOG-12 can do, but better, right? While it's true the MOG-12 can get a one-shot kill, and the attachments I've recommended here are going to make those one-shot kills more consistent, you're still going to find yourself getting a 2-shot kill with the MOG-12, maybe 60 or 70% of the time. My line of thinking is, if you're already going to be putting 2 shots into your opponent anyway, why not use a semi-automatic shotgun, right? I will say though, the MOG-12 with Gung-Ho is completely overpowered in hardcore. Like, really freaking good. Like, one of the best possible gun setups you could possibly use here in Black Ops 4. The MOG-12 with Gung-Ho and hardcore is insane. You point in their general direction, you pull the trigger, and you get the kill. It's pretty fantastic. But when you're playing core, which is where most of the people play in the Call of Duty franchise, the MOG-12 is pretty much terrible. It's not really worth the hassle, at least in my opinion. The next weapon we are going to be taking a look at is going to be the VAPR. This is an incredibly versatile weapon that sort of blurs the line between assault rifle and submachine gun, and it also can use high caliber, which really puts it over the top. My recommended attachments, of course, would be the Elo sight, high caliber, and a suppressor. Now, while it's true that the suppressor reduces your effectiveness at range, it's not really going to be all that noticeable on the VAPR because the VAPR never really excelled at range to begin with. You're going to notice that this class is actually quite similar to the MX-9 stealth class, but with a few changes, right? For starters, we are going to be running equipment charge over acoustic sensor and scavenger over engineer. This is because when I designed this class, I wanted it to feel like the old school Ghost Galil class that everybody ran back in the original Black Ops. The VAPR is a great assault rifle that also happens to be good up close, so it seemed like the perfect candidate to suppress and run things like Ghost and Dead Silence on. I also found that this class is pretty good at staying alive, and it's also pretty good for objective play, which is why I chose to go with the equipment charge. Having more access to specialist gear and specialist weapons while also staying off the map and never running out of ammo seems like the perfect way for you to be annoying to the opposing team. All in all, this is one of the most solid, dependable classes here in Black Ops 4, and I highly recommend giving it a try, regardless of what game mode you play, because this class really does excel in pretty much all of them. Next up, we have our sniper class, though it's going to be a bit different than the other sniper classes I'm sure you found online. A similar class to this was actually highly recommended back in Call of Duty World War II, and I'm bringing it back here for Black Ops 4 because it's so freaking good. Our sniper of choice is going to be the Paladin, all decked out with high caliber 1, high caliber 2, and the stabilizer, but we're also going to be using overkill to run a submachine gun. In this case, we're going to be running the SOG 9mm because it's pretty good in most situations. The reason why we're running overkill on this class is so that when you're using a sniper, you have a way out, because most of the time, people like to pretend that they are Pomage, right? They pretend that they're Jeb. They think they're testy, but let's be real here, 99.9% of people are not those players, right? Those guys are insanely good with snipers. The average COD fan is not that good with a sniper, and if you only have a sniper on your class, you're gonna die a lot. That's the very nature of Black Ops 4. I hate to say it, but this game is not really designed for sniper play. Look how small and tight the maps are, for crying out loud, which is why I recommend you run a submachine gun as your secondary on your sniper class. That way you can have all the fun with a sniper, but switch to a submachine gun when you actually have to. It's actually quite similar to what we did back in Black Ops 3. Who remembers in Search and Destroy in Black Ops 3, or even in the pro scene in Black Ops 3, lots of people would use the SVG overkilled with a submachine gun. Well, we're pretty much doing the same thing everything here in Call of Duty Black Ops 4, and I can say it's actually a very good setup. When it comes to gear and perks, I recommend using Equipment Charge because Specialist gear always helps out your team, and Engineer and Dead Silence because we had to spend most of our points decking out our Paladin for maximum one-shot potential. Last but not least, we have the double high-caliber Rampart 17 class. This rifle hits like an absolute truck at all ranges with these attachments, and it's honestly one of those setups where you'll get kills with it, and every time you'll be surprised as to how good it actually is. Like, the first time you used a Titan, the first time you used double high-cal on the Auger, the first time probably that you used the Swordfish after the buffs, you probably thought to yourself, like, holy crap, this gun's insane. Well, double high-caliber on the Rampart gives you that same feeling. I know lots of people tend to run no optical attachment on the Rampart because they really like those Scar H style iron sights, but in my opinion, use a reflex sight on this because that added clarity makes it much easier to use downrange, and believe it or not, with how strong this gun is, you can actually compete with light machine guns and augers and sniper rifles and stuff like that at those super long ranges. Of course, high caliber 2 is needed to be able to do that, and I also recommend a grip because the Rampart is one of the few guns here in this game that actually has a bit of recoil. For gear and perks, I recommend the bare bones setup for this class. Engineer, lightweight, and dead silence with Equipment Charge. I find that this setup here is really a jack of all trades class. It's good for pretty much everything because the core perks are super beneficial, and high caliber 2 just really takes the Rampart and puts it over the edge and makes it one of the deadliest weapons here in Black Ops 4. Now, I know this video is supposed to only contain 10 classes, and so far I've given you guys like 11 or 12 depending on how you look at it, but still I want to throw in one more class into the fold because the Maddox is one of the best guns here in this game. Much like the VAPR, it sort of blurs the line between assault rifle and submachine gun, and here is going to be my preferred setup with the Maddox. I'm sure many of you are wondering what you should run on the Maddox. Well, here's my recommendation. It's a very basic setup, but honestly, that's all you need with the Maddox. It's really freaking good. It's one of the most popular weapons here in Black Ops 4 for a reason, which is why I wanted to throw it in here at the end of the video. With all the custom classes now out of the way, let's go ahead and start talking about the Scorestreaks and the Specialists that you'll be running with all of your custom classes, starting things off here with the Scorestreaks. In my opinion, when it comes to the streaks here in Black Ops 4, the lower ones are typically the better ones. I know it's lots of fun to go for strike teams and gunships and things like that, but unless you're Dismo and you're capable of calling these things in several times per match, it's probably not going to be worth it, right? Ask yourselves this: how often are you getting the streaks that you run with your setup? If your answer is once every couple of games, it might be better to run the streaks that you can obtain multiple times per game instead. But of course, do what you want. It's a video game at the end of the day, and we're all here to have fun. But I promise you guys, it's more fun to call in like 10 streaks in a single game than 2 or 3 streaks over the course of 3 or 4 games. I actually got a lot of flack for doing this back in Call of Duty World War II. I would run the recon aircraft, the fighter pilot, and the glide bomb pretty much all the time, and therefore they would always show up in my videos. And the reason why I did that was because I could get those streaks 3 to 5 times every single game with no real trouble whatsoever. And as a result, I always had a recon for my team. I would end up getting something like 10 or 15 kills for my score streaks every single match, and it was really, really good, right? The same is true here in Black Ops 4. Sure, you could run the attack helicopter, the strike team, and the gunship, but how often do you really obtain all 3 of those score streaks, and how many kills do they normally get you on average? There's a reason why I run the lower streaks here in the Call of Duty franchise. It's because the cost to value ratio is typically very high, and that's a big contributing factor as to why I win 75 to 80% of my games in every single Call of Duty title, despite playing solo most of the time. Here's going to be a quick cheat sheet I threw together for you guys of what I believe to be the streaks that are actually worth going for here in Black Ops 4 versus these streaks that really aren't worth it because they're not good in terms of cost to power. Keep in mind, I still recommend running the lower streaks most of the time. Just because the strike team is technically worth it or the gunship is technically worth it does not mean you're going to get it every single game or that you should go for it every single game. I recommend the 5 streaks I recommend to you guys above all else would be the UAV, the counter UAV, the lightning strike, the hellstorm, and the sniper's nest. And that's because each of these is relatively cheap and they can really help out you and your team quite a lot. When it comes to specialists, I recommend watching my full detailed specialist guide where I break down each of them and rank them according to power. I'll put a link to that down there in the description, but a quick summary: the 5 best specialists in this game for overall use and objective play would be Crash, Torque, Recon, Battery, as well as Seraph. Each one of them is incredibly good in objective play, but if you plan on playing like only Team Deathmatch or only free-for-all, maybe swap out Seraph for somebody like Nomad or Ruin. Nomad in particular is insanely good in hardcore. He's like my go-to specialist when I play hardcore. He's also very good in modes like Team Deathmatch, and Ajax is pretty much overpowered on very small maps like Nuketown or Firing Range, and also in game modes like Search and Destroy. In general, play whatever specialist you want. They're all pretty good at the end of the day, but keep in mind that some specialists are going to be better than other ones on different maps and in different game modes. For example, going back to Ajax, he's insanely good on Nuketown for every single game mode, but that doesn't mean he's also insanely good while playing Team Deathmatch on Jungle, as an example, right? Torque may be really good at locking down maps like Slums and Summit, but that does not mean he's a must-have on maps like Militia or Contraband. Again, check out my full specialist guide if you guys would like to see me go into great detail on every single specialist in the game, but here in this video, I wanted to give you guys some quick general tips about the specialist here in Black Ops 4. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much does it for this video. I hope that the wait for this guide was worth it. I hope you guys learned something useful, and if there's a demand for this kind of video, I'd be more than happy to make more guides like this one in the future. I've been playing the Call of Duty series for over a decade now, and in that time, I've actually gotten kind of good at it, so if you guys have any suggestions for videos or series, feel free to leave them down there in the comment section below, but until then, I hope you guys will enjoy this guide. If you did, please drop me a rating, leave your thoughts and feedback down there in the comments, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.